Yes, your boy is back. In today's video, I'm going to be showcasing you guys how to do these smooth freeze frame effects. Now, a lot of people use them in their music videos, but some people don't like to actually tell you how to add some extra sauce to these effects and clean them up even more. Okay, so all of these effects are down to preference, and it's up to you with the way you want to do it. But for me, when I'm doing my music videos, I always edit and do effects inside of Premiere Pro. So I've already set my keyframes on where I want to do these effects. So for the first one, we basically want to start the effect from around here and make it land here. So we're actually going to mask out the Ferrari logo on this car, and the way we're going to do that is basically we're going to take a picture from the start of the frame. I'm going to take a picture here and import this into your project, and then I'm basically going to cut it and make it the length that I've made my keyframes there, these two keyframes here. Okay, cool, my two little markers, whatever you want to call them. And then I'm going to right click and we're going to go to replace with After Effects composition. And the first thing you want to do is you want to go to your pen tool and you want to just start masking out your subject. Okay, you want to make sure that you make it very clean, but for this video we're just going to do it very rough. So I'll be back once I have masked this out. Okay, cool. So once you've masked out your subject, it's going to look like this. The next thing you want to do is you want to double click on your layer. You want to go to the bottom left window here. You want to go to mask and you want to go to where it says inverted and you want to tick that. Okay, so now we've got our masked frame and where we're going to be zooming out from. So this is going to be a zoomed out transition. The first thing I usually like to do is I like to give my mask a little bit of a feather. So give it around 9%. It's up to you guys, it's all preference really. And you want to go to transform at the bottom here and keyframe position and scale. So we want to make sure that our first keyframes is going to start from the zoom. So we want to make sure that our mask is covering the entire video. And the way we're going to do that is by moving the scale, going to composition and zooming out like this, and moving and positioning the mask over the video just like so. So now that when we set our next keyframe, it's going to zoom out. You can move your marker across the timeline and select your keyframes here, right click and press reset. Now when we actually watch this back, you can see that we've zoomed out of the logo. Now this is very basic, it's very choppy. The way we're going to clean this up is basically by highlighting our keyframes and pressing F9 on the keyboard. If it doesn't work when you press F9, you can just right click and go to keyframe assistant and you can easy E these keyframes, okay? But for me, this is the way I do it. Now once you've highlighted your keyframes, you then want to make sure that your motion blur is on, so that now when we do watch this back, it is a lot more cleaner than what it was before. Again, we're not going to have this zoom that fast, so we're going to move our keyframes to the end, the last keyframes there. And now when we watch it back, once it renders, there we go, it's much more smoother and it's got more length to it, and that's what we want. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to go to your Premiere Pro and you kind of just want to watch it back to make sure that your clip is looking good. Now because we're doing it in Premiere Pro from After Effects composition, obviously in our composition here we're not going to be able to see what's underneath the video, but when you go to Premiere Pro, that's going to reveal it for you because our video is underneath this layer right here. Okay, so as you can see, that's our effect. It's very simple, but we want to clean this up. We don't want it to look so choppy, and the way we're going to do this is basically we're going to duplicate our layer right here. Now once you've duplicated your layer, you want to go to around the point of the clip where it's just about to end, and what we're going to do is we're basically going to bring the logo back into the shot so then it doesn't look as choppy. So I'm going to say around here we're going to do it, and we're going to bring these keyframes here on the second duplicated layer to where we want to start moving that logo back in. Now we can delete our keyframes for now, and there you go, and this layer we can bring it back here. So now we have a duplicated layer. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to go to your mask, the second layer here, and untick inverted. Now what that is going to do is basically it's going to bring back the logo, but because it was already zoomed in, it's, as you can see, it's very overscaled. So what we want to do is we basically want to bring the mask back down to around this size here like this. So we're basically just going to zoom out I'm going to keep zooming out until we feel like we've got our logo back to its original size within this mask. Alright, so as you can see, we fairly, just about put the right size to where this mask is as of now. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bottom left where transform is on our second layer, and we're going to toggle opacity. Okay, now once we've toggled opacity, we're going to change it from 100 to 0. Okay, so now that we actually don't see the mask, we don't see the logo. Okay, and what you want to do is for these first keyframes right here, you want to change the position and you want to bring it down just below of the actual masks that we've created right here. And then you want to move the blue dial on the timeline at any point of the video, and you want to highlight your position and your scale and reset it back to its original position. And same with the opacity. You want to bring it back to 100 at the end of the clip, but to smoothen it out, I'm going to easy E these keyframes, there we go, and bring it back. So now when we see our mask and when we see our effect, the logo is slowly pushing back into position. So when we watch it, of course you can't see too much going on there in After Effects, but when we watch it here, you can see now clearly that our mask has gone back in to its original position. And it just makes the effect look way more smoother instead of it, just blacking out and going back to the logo. It's actually showcasing that the logo is bringing itself back in from that effect. Then the next thing I do is I either give it a shake or a flash or both. I'm actually going to give this effect a bass bump with a flash. So I'm going to use my own presets that I am potentially going to release towards the end of this year. We do have a lot pack coming as well, so look out for that. So I'm going to go to my effects here and I'm going to click new bass bump, and that's basically going to shake the screen just before the effect comes, and we're going to add another bass bump as it lands in. So around here we're going to add a bass bump as well. Actually, I want the bass bump to start as soon as the effect is coming in, like this. There we go, that's what I meant. So it gives it that shake. Now we can actually adjust these bass bumps and just make them look a little bit more smoother. So I'm happy with that shake right there, and I'm going to duplicate that on top of the layer again. So there we go, we got one shake as soon as it starts and then the next shake when it lands in. Now I actually have a weird way of doing my own flash effects if I don't have any presets for flashes. I do, but I don't like any of them at the moment, and I usually just tend to make my own. So this is what I do. I make an adjustment layer like this. You've probably seen it in my previous videos. I put it over the effect or the clip where I want to make this, flash, and I split them in the middle. I go to effects and I go to additive dissolve and I drag it on top. So that basically is going to cause a little flash across the clip and the effect. And I'm going to duplicate that and drag it on top of our layer there. So let's just render that so you can have a quick look of what this looks like. Flash, bang. So there we go. Now that's pretty clean. I just feel like the flash here can just be moved back a slight tad so we can actually see our logo come in a little bit more. There we go. That is much more cleaner. And as you can see, that is the first freeze frame masking effect that I love to do. Now the second one is basically very similar, but just with a different style. So I've done my markers right here, and we're going to be zooming out of this police car window, and we're going to be giving the effect a different style. So we're going to do the same thing again. Take the photo, get the picture here, make it the same length of your markers in terms of how long you want the zoom to be. So there you go, there's your freeze frame. Right click, replace with After Effects composition, double click your layer, and you're going to mask out what you want to zoom out from. And again, like I said, in this is very rough, guys. Don't do it the way I'm doing it. If you're doing this for paid clients, they will not be happy. Make sure that you take your time and make the mask as perfect as possible. So now we want to do the same thing, go on our mask, increase the feather just a little bit. I say on this one maybe just to 8% and invert the layer. And now you can see we've got our transition going already. So you want to go to transform and you go to position and scale, and you want to go to our composition so that we can see what we're doing. And we want to zoom in again and just move this on top of the clip so we can zoom out. Again, our keyframes at the start, move down the timeline, highlight your keyframes, reset, and again we have our zoom. Highlight these keyframes, F9 them, and add our motion blur, and we're going to move this towards the end of the clip. So as you can see, there is our zoom. Just let it render. There's our zoom. Very clean. You can just keep it like that if you want. Again, we can go to Premiere Pro. You guys can see what that looks like. But again, it just looks very choppy, and I'm not liking the way that looks. So we're going to do something very simple here and something very similar to what we just done. Again, we're going to duplicate this layer, and we're actually going to bring the window back in, or the opacity, around, I'd say, starting from here. So we're going to drag our clip, we're going to bring it in here, and we're going to bring our keyframes back at the same position. And we want to do the same thing we did for the last clip. So with the second layer, we're going to go to mask, and we want to take it off inverted. And then we want to go back to transform, and we want to bring the mask back down to the same size as you're seeing it in this clip here. So now we've actually brought our window back in, but we're not going to slide it up, and we're not going to slide it through the left or the right. We're basically just going to toggle the opacity from 0 and then drag down to the timeline, change it to 100. And we're going to reset our keyframes here from position and scale. Highlight everything, F9 for easy E, and drag it to the end. Now this is basically going to showcase the window coming back in frame like a nice fade in. So let's go to Premiere Pro and watch how this looks. So as you can see, it's a very smooth fade in, and let's watch that. Okay, very smooth, and you just might like that on its own, but for me, I'm actually gonna give that some bass bumps. So I'm gonna just copy my bass bump here, and again I'm gonna put a bass bump on top of it like so, and I'm gonna get our flash. Now let's zoom in, and I'm going to drag my flash just on top of our layer as it starts. So there's a flash and a bass bump, and then add our flash after the second bass bump there. And we're going to render that. So as you can see, just a very nice bass bump to start off with. The flash zooms out, opacity back in, and the bass bump to land it in. I feel like I'm gonna bring the bass bump in earlier, and when we watch that back now, yeah, I'm liking the way that looks. It's just very simple, very clean, and you can imagine if the music has a bass bump there, it's gonna give it more of an effect. For these sort of effects, I love to use bass bumps. So yeah, tell me what you guys think of these two effects. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new, hit the subscribe button. We're growing very fast. I appreciate all the support on the channel, but I just wanted to showcase these effects because a lot of people, they don't usually like to show how they do these sort of effects. And when I say that, I'm actually talking about just the last bit here. For example, when the opacity comes in, a lot of people will just show you how to mask out and zoom out, and they won't actually show you, you know, shall I say, the secret sauce. So I wanted to showcase that for you guys today, and if you're new to editing, this is going to help you a lot in the process. So guys, let me know what you want to see next in the comment section below, and I will do an effect. I'm going to try to do 2 videos a week. So yeah, man, peace, love, and I'll catch you in the next one.